Funding for Thomas's ready-to-play adventures has been assisted by our Patreon patrons, and by our all-new YouTube members, and by contributions to the MilanToon Channel from viewers like you. Thank you!
This is the night I was created for. I'm gonna put on my best disguise and go knocking on everybody's door. This is the night I'm gonna hit the street. 'Cause this is the night folks are giving away so many good things to eat. Oh, people, you know life could be so sweet if every night was a night to go trick or treat.
Trick or treat.
Wouldn't it be sweet?
Trick or treat.
Just a trick or treat.
Trick or treat.
Wouldn't it be sweet?
Trick or treat.
Just a trick or treat.
It was almost Halloween on the Island of Sodor. All the engines were busily working as the stations and towns were getting prepared for parties, tricks, and treats. There was even the odd spooky story around the campfire to enjoy as well. Thomas was delivering some freight to one of the stations on his branch line. There, Miss Martin, the schoolmaster, was pacing about, waiting for a load of goods for the cafeteria.
Good afternoon, Miss Martin. You look a little worried. What's the matter?
Miss Martin sighed. She was glad to have someone to talk to.
We've got a lot of repairs to make around the school before winter arrives. I thought of doing a haunted house fundraiser, but I can't find the time to look for a place to hold it.
Why would you want to raise funds for a haunted house?
Oh, it's not quite like that. It's where people dress up their homes with decorations and spooks, and people go through it on a tour. They pay a little something to go inside, which can go back into fixing up things. I thought about doing one at the school, but the only thing scary about it is our funding.
Thomas was still confused, but he wanted to help Miss Martin and the children living on the branch line.
Don't worry, Miss Martin. I'll find somewhere you can set up your haunted house.
Oh, thank you, dear. That'll take it off my mind, like taking this food off the van.
As Thomas headed home, he kept thinking about where the fundraiser could be set up. He thought about asking the other engines at the sheds if they knew any good spots. But when he arrived at the depot, he found the other engines all enthralled in one of Otis's tall tales. He pulled up in time for one of the older stories that had been passed down to Otis.
Legends say that back when the railway first formed, there used to be a line that led all the way up to the island's first goods station. But anyone that went down the line had an unnerving feeling, like they were being watched by something. One night, a poor lost engine trying to return home went down the line by accident. The rails climbed a hold of the engine's wheels as the lion dragged the engine 6 feet under. The line was closed, but it was never boarded up. So, any engine traveling late at night is warned to be careful, lest they be devoured by the line.
All the engines were quite scared by Otis's tale. Even Devon, who was trying to play it off, couldn't quite shake the look of fear in his eyes. Ahem! It was a costume Sir Topham hat. I know it's starting to get late, but I need an engine to make a delivery. There's a truck full of supplies that needs to be taken to the old crane dock, and after that, a scrap truck needs to be taken to the ironworks. Are there any volunteers? Couldn't possibly be me!
I've had such a long day pulling goods trains.
My, allergies are starting to kick in.
Pah! A bunch of scaredy steamies.
I take it that means you're volunteering, Devon?
My fitter says it's bad for me to do last-minute runs.
Thomas looked over and put on a brave face.
I can do it, sir.
Excellent. The supply truck is waiting for you at Knapford. Be quick now.
Surprised you're so keen on doing that job. Aren't you scared the haunted line is gonna get you?
Ha! I'm not scared. Besides, I quite like the dark.
And with a whistle, Thomas set off from the sheds. He arrived at the big station and was coupled to the supply car. Soon he was on his way to the old docks where Carly the crane was loading up the scrap truck.
Hello up there, Carly! Over here! I've got some supplies to help you rebuild the old docks.
Ah, Thomas! Thanks a ton, mate. Guess you're also here to take this here scrap truck to the ironworks?
That's right!
Word of advice, mate. I'd be quick about that if I were you. Hate to get caught up there during the dead of night.
But Thomas didn't listen. He was just thinking about how he was going to prove he wasn't a scaredy engine to Otis. He coupled up to the scrap truck and proceeded on his way to the ironworks. But when Thomas finally arrived, it was a very different story. Rusting old wrecks sat around the tracks. Bits and pieces of machines were scattered around cranes and claws. Thomas left the scrap car on a siding, where a grabber was eagerly awaiting to crunch on in. Thomas's wheels trembled. Then came rumblings that gave him a shudder. A rumbling steam or diesel feared. The rumbles of the Iron Twins. Well, 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 if it isn't the blue puffball. Looks like you're a long way from home, eh, Bert?
Strange to see you venture out from your branch line this time of night.
I've come with the dock scrap. No need to worry about anything else. I should be on my way now.
Oh, but you've only just arrived. Make yourself toasty by the fire. Buffer 'em, Bert! Thomas didn't take long to make it back to the main line, and he shot forward without thinking of where he'd end up. But there was trouble ahead. Some faulty points had become stuck and were leading towards an abandoned line. Poor Thomas didn't know about it until he found himself going down the wrong line.
Oh no! I'm on the haunted line! Otis was right!
Then there was trouble.
Cinders and ashes!
Thomas saw he was approaching the end of the line. Thomas found himself lying off the rails and wheel deep on the ground.
Oh no! The haunted line! It's taking me! Help! Help!
It's not gonna take you to the ground, you noisy engine.
Who said that? Who's there?
Over here, by that old oak tree. There you go. Now who in the blazes are you?
I'm Thomas.
Huh? What's that? Speak up, boy.
I'm Thomas.
Thompson?
I'm Thomas!
Huh?
My name is Thomas!
Well, Thompson, my name's Barry. Red Caboose Barry to some. And I used to work on this line way, way back in the day.
Thomas looked around and realized he'd ended up at an abandoned station.
What happened?
Well, it just got forgotten over time as new fancier stations got built. Also, there was something about the materials used in the station. What was it, asbestos or something? Anyway, they closed down the line and left me here in this setting.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
I don't need your sympathy. My time for being useful has passed a long time ago. Although, I still miss the company. Still, can't imagine I'll be around for much longer. Once help comes for you, I'll probably be sent to the scrapyard and be cut up and whatnot.
Thomas felt horrible. Poor Barry didn't deserve to be left in the buffers of Harry and Bert. Then, he remembered what Miss Martin said to him earlier that day.
That's it!
Huh? What's it? You ain't making sense, Thompson.
Don't worry, Barry. You're not getting scrapped anytime soon.
The next morning, help finally arrived in the form of Roger and Chuck. After the two had helped pull Thomas back on the rails, Thomas talked to Sir Topham Hatt about his idea. You'll have to get approval from Miss Martin before anything can officially happen, but it would be a great help towards her and the school.
Don't worry, Barry. I'll be back in no time.
And Thomas puffed away to collect Miss Martin. When they returned, Miss Martin examined the abandoned station.
It's perfect. Just the right place.
If that's the case, we'll get to work clearing the line immediately. Ha ha!
You hear that, Barry? You'll have company soon enough.
What?
Soon the line was restored into proper working order, and the station, after careful reinstallation, was ready for a spooky makeover. Soon after, everyone from around the island came to visit the haunted train station. And Thomas even helped out by being the station's very own ghost train.
I'm glad Pierce is away at the works right now. He would be terrified if he saw this.
What? Who's Percival?
The haunted station was a smash hit. It raised more than what Miss Martin expected and was able to help fund the school for the time being. In its off-season, the station now serves as a small railing museum that people can go and visit. Barry, while not going back to being a full-time caboose, was given a refurbishing and looks just like he did all those years ago. He enjoys the company of all that come to visit him, although he still has a bit of trouble hearing them.
I knew a ferret named Thompson once. Gosh darn, stole my buffers.
Thomas is glad he discovered the line.
Otis was right. The line did claim me. Just not in the way I expected.
One day, Devon the freight diesel was dropping off a load at the docks. Thomas was puffing away to work at the old crane dock, but not before shunting one of his least favorite loads. Oh joy, parked near coal, he groaned. What's the matter with a bit of coal? Called Cranky the crane. I've got many stops around the island today with my freight. I must look presentable for whomever needs service. Says an engine painted tuxedo black, he muttered. Just then the foreman arrived from his office. All hands on deck! Titan is arriving with a big consignment from the mainland. We need freight cars at the ready ASAP. Ah, said Devon, that's the shipment I've been assigned to. Taking them to the big rail yard to be brought all over the railway. Then you'd better shift your wheels, said Cranky. Porter's at Edwards Station, and Thomas is waiting for some barge loads at the old crane dock. Oh, fret not, old chap. I know when my services are needed. So Devon fired up his engine and quickly set to work. There was lots of wagons to sort out on the pier. Empty boxcars and tankers from the waterworks were a start, followed by a line of cabooses and brake wagons for upcoming trains. He moved the junk wagon out of the way for towing to the recycling plant, shifted around VIP coaches for the cruise ship coming in the evening, and he even sorted a long line of lumber and log wagons just towed in from the lake. Finally, he found himself some empty freight cars ready for the cargo to be loaded. And it was just in time as a great big blast of Titan's horns signaled his arrival. That's when the real work began. Cranky was careful sorting out Titan's containers. The old crates were loaded with everything from construction materials to tea. Devon carefully moved about as Cranky loaded each of the heavy crates off Titan's deck and onto the waiting cars. And soon, after much lifting and loading, the big ship had finally been unloaded. Devon felt very pleased with himself as he began to leave the dock. And he wasn't the only engine finished. As he was pulling out, Thomas was coming back from the old crane dock with the important barge loads. "Look at this, young Thomas," he boasted. "A full dockyard sorted and organized, with my cargo all set for travel." "No thanks to the crane," grumbled Cranky, who was still loading a few more supplies onto Titan's deck. "Good work and good timing," said Thomas, "because there's another job we could use help with." "What's that?" It was the tiny horn of Ariane, towing in fish for the flying kipper. Oh, yuck! And Devon ran for the main line like he was the express. "Well, his loss," said Thomas. "It's a lovely day for fishing." One morning, Bruno the brake wagon was sitting quietly on the sidings of the big rail yard. He was going over his plans for the day ahead. Just then, Thomas came puffing in with a freshly cleaned Annie and Clarabelle. "Hi, Bruno," whistled Thomas. "Hello, Thomas," said Bruno. "You are right on time for your pickup today." "Great! Where will I be going today?" "Your schedule is right here with me," replied Bruno, who always loved timetables and maps. "You'll be pulling a flat car of lumber to the mines, then 2 crates of bottles to the dairy. Then you've got the afternoon train on your branch line at 2 o'clock with a final mixed traffic train of stone and passengers at 8:15. "Bust my buffers," puffed Thomas. "You've got my day down to a T." "But there aren't any tea deliveries on this timetable," pondered a confused Bruno. "And you don't have any jobs near the Callan River Golf Club either." "I know," laughed Thomas. "I just meant that you've got my day down to every little bit." "Oh, I suppose I did," said Bruno. Thomas soon shunted his cars into place. "Ready to check over everything before you go?" asked Bruno. "Of course," came up Park Thomas. This was a special thing he and Bruno did before he left for any job. "Filled up with coal?" "Yes, I stopped by the coaling tower before I got here." "Tank full of water?" "Top to the lid." "Got a good washdown?" "Yes, indeed. The workmen at the sheds even give my whistle a polish." "Are you sure?" asked Bruno. "There is one thing." "What do you mean?" quizzed a puzzled Thomas. "You've got paint on your number." Thomas looked back. Then he gave a great big laugh. "Oh, Bruno," he chuckled, "you got me there. Just wanted to keep you on track." The two friends continued laughing when Thomas's conductor came in. "Time to get going, Thomas. We've got a lot of work to do today." "Indeed we have," said Thomas's driver. "Off to the mines first." "Thanks for helping to make sure it was all set for today," said Thomas. "It's always a bit hard with all these jobs." "You're welcome, Thomas," said Bruno. "Oh, one more thing," he said. "The docks junction will be closed from 10 to 11. Tell Henry to wait at Edward Station for his cars." "Sure thing," said Thomas. "Goodbye, Bruno." And as Thomas set off, Bruno sat happily in the rail yard, relaxing until his first job of the day rolled in, which he knew was a 10 o'clock run with Otis to the docks. Henry the Big Green Engine sometimes takes freight cars to the end of the line. They're either pulled by him the whole way or picked up by engines to take the rest of the way. One day, he'd made it to the yard in record time.
Woo! On time again! I'll make up the midnight special in no time now!
Penny, a new engine, was very impressed.
You sure got away with those express freights.
I wish I could pull as much as you can.
Well, little one, it's all in the tender. You smaller engines can only hold so much coal and water in your bunkers and tanks. But our tenders can let us go as far and as fast as we like on any distance.
You might want to move it, though. It's time I take it out to Wayland.
And we better get you to the coaling tower. You burned quite a bit on this trip.
Soon Henry was enjoying the leisures of a well-loaded tender. He was sitting comfortably waiting for his next train home. Nearby, an inspector had been looking over the switch tower. Before she'd arrived, the signalman had tested some of the points when the yard was empty. All was correctly reset, but she had a feeling he had forgotten one. Suddenly, a horn was hooting at the other end of the yard.
Ah! Devon's coming in. I better move clear. He'll probably need refueling after his run.
Right, back we go then, old boy! Henry slowly made his way back to the main line. Until...
Stop! Stop! Stop!
Bloomin' heck!
What's going on? Cinders and ashes! What happened?
I believe you've hit trap points.
Henry looked ahead. He realized that the special points, used mostly for runaways, had been left set forward. He was stuck! Luckily, Roger and Chuck were able to get Henry back onto the rails in time for his next train.
It's amazing what you can do with a couple planks of wood.
Tender's proven a little bit of a toughie, though. Even with some spilt coal, Henry's tender was still fully loaded. Sir Topham Hatt had come to see what had happened. Henry was worried, but he spoke kindly to him. The accident wasn't your fault. The signalman on duty should have made sure that the points were set correctly after his checking. We'll have you in good working order again soon. Just then, Penny rumbled by with the midnight goods. She couldn't help but laugh a little at Henry's predicament.
Seems your tender certainly let you go far today.
Henry hoped tomorrow it wouldn't. Holiday time was always a packed time for the Island of Sodor. The stations were being decorated for the season, people were enjoying carol parties at the churches and halls, and snowmen peppered the countryside towns. The engines had to keep busy delivering parcels, passengers, and freight in time for the season. It was a jolly time for everyone. Everyone, that was. Except Henry.
Typical. This always happens around the holidays. Everyone's out and about having fun pulling their spaceships while I'm stuck getting repaired.
Cheer up, my friend. We'll have your cylinder fixed in no time. We just need a few more parts from the foundry.
Yeah, and then you'll be back to pulling trucks full of presents and candy home.
Kevin!
Sorry, boss.
Maybe it's for the best that I'm stuck in here. I wasn't really feeling the holiday spirit this year anyhow.
Whatever do you mean?
Well, it feels like I've had nothing but bad luck since the winter started.
And it wasn't without reason either. In the past 2 weeks since the first snowfall came, Henry had been running into all sorts of trouble. One day, his snowplow had fallen apart when they tried to fit it for its first run of the year. Then another, the water tower at Edward Station had frozen up before he had to go up the hill. Then at the mountain junction, Henry ended up running into a deep snowdrift. He was buried for an hour until Thomas had to pull him out. And finally, his piston cylinder had frozen and cracked.
How can anyone feel holly jolly after all that?
Poor Victor and Kevin knew that was harder to answer than they'd like to admit. Soon the workmen worked as hard as they could to try and get Henry mended as best as they could. But with the workshop full, the repairs outdoors was a tough job. Alright gang, I think that's the most we can get done.
We need to make space soon in there. We need to lift sooner than later.
Our shop had to hit rush season, didn't it?
Even then, I doubt we'll be able to fix Henry anytime soon.
Poor Henry felt depressed.
Surely there's something we can do to help, boss.
Nothing we can do without getting some new parts for our workshop residents.
Not just for that, boss. Henry needs cheering up. Big time.
You're not wrong, my friend, but there isn't much we can do here. We can't exactly go into town, can we? Kevin was quick to withhold his thoughts. Now, I need you to go fetch the workmen the parts they need for Henry. They should be in the... Kevin? Where'd you go? Kevin? Kevin! Kevin had mysteriously vanished. Oh dear.
Excuse me, pardon me.
Hey, watch where you're going.
Oops, sorry.
Soon Kevin found himself traveling across town, passing by bewildered onlookers. Even Terrence the tractor couldn't believe his eyes.
Wait until Trevor hears about this.
Kevin drove around to the local shops asking if they had anything they could give to Henry to cheer him up. Miss Guerin, the seamstress, gave him a rug that she almost had to throw out. Then, Mr. Charles, the hardware shop owner, gave him a fresh bundle of scrapwood to help his crew light Henry's firebox in the morning. Finally, he stopped by Mr. Salas's bakery to pick up some treats. I've only got some pretzels and cinnamon buns to spare, but you're more than welcome to it. He did wonder who this friend of Kevin's was to need a whole storage container. Soon Kevin was on the road back to the works. On his way home, though, he passed by Roger and Chuck. Hello, Kevin. Fancy seeing you out here. What you got in that big crate of yours?
Oh, this? This is just some cheer-me-ups for Henry while he's at the works.
Oh, I didn't know he was at the works. Poor fella. Then Kevin noticed the time on the clock nearby.
Whoops, sorry. Gotta run. I don't want to make the boss mad. Goodbye.
And he scurried off towards the works. Chuck, you thinking what I'm thinking? Is it about the amounts of bear claws I saw Sir Topham Hatt buying for himself? Because it was not a healthy amount to get for just one person. Mr. Salas must have a back order. No, we should get something to help cheer up Henry too. Oh, well, that was my second thought. With that, Roger and Chuck made their way down to a tree farm. All right, Chuck, what tree do you think we should get him? Roger, I just realized something. How are we gonna pay for all this? Just then, Thomas and Devon arrived.
Chuck! Roger! What are you doing here?
What else did you expect? They're clearly codependent.
Hey, that's not true! We don't need coal, and we're getting Henry a Christmas tree. Kevin's gotten some gifts for him, so we're bringing him something too.
Maybe try to see if you can find a plastic tree. He much prefers those.
Hey, thanks for the tip! We'll see you later! But now Thomas and Devon were thinking, and they soon headed their way down the lines too. Thomas decided to pick up Annie Clarabelle in the local choir for their nightly practice session.
It's a winter wonderland, see the snow laying all around, shaping up to be a wonderful holiday, not your normal average everyday. Alright, deck the halls with boughs of holly, la 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 la, 'tis the season to...
Devon went to the depot at the big station for some fresh crates of paint.
If that old workhorse is going to be stuck, the least he could be is smartly dressed.
And on his way, he met Porter at Edward Station, who had some old light buoys from the docks. Then Porter met Otis at the mountain junction, who remembered a fresh delivery of coal he had to collect from the end of the line. And on his way there, he met Penny towing along some spare equipment up the line, including a spare outdoor heater. Meanwhile, at the works, Victor had some choice words for Kevin. Oh, Kevin, what were you thinking gallivanting off like that?
Sorry, boss. I only wanted to make Henry feel better.
Well, you should always tell us where you're going first. You could have gotten into trouble. But then he looked over at Henry. Henry did enjoy the blanket and the scrapwood, and his crew certainly enjoyed the treats. But Henry was still feeling a little down.
Were my gifts bad, Henry?
Oh, not at all. The blanket is helping me staying warm out here, and the scrapwood should make my fire start a bit quicker when I'm repaired. But I wish I had my friends around. I think that's what I missed the most being here at the works.
Now Kevin felt a little upset. Victor felt sorry for both of them. But you know, it was thoughtful of you to think of Henry. I think any engine here for the holidays would be lucky to have you help out. That made Kevin feel a little better. Then, they began to hear something from afar.
Huh, what's that?
It sounds like Christmas carolers.
Soon the singing became louder as a cavalcade of engines and coaches slowly arrived at the works. Henry could hardly believe his eyes.
What are you all doing here?
Well, Kevin said you needed some cheering up, so we all decided we should stop by and give you a visit.
Here you go. Took a bit to find one that was entirely plastic, but figured it was worth the hassle for you. Henry smiled from buffer to buffer. One by one, the engines each gave Henry a gift. And after that, they told stories of Mary and sang joyous songs together till the night fell. Soon it was time for the engines to return to their sheds. They all said their goodbyes to Henry and went on their way. Ah, good news, Henry. We finally have room for you indoors. No sleeping out in the cold for you.
Oh, jolly good! But who will bring me in?
Peep, peep, came a whistle.
I figure I'd stick around a little longer. Let me shun you into the shop for a good night's rest.
Thank you, Penny.
Henry was very grateful. Penny shunted Henry into the works and then departed back to the sheds. Henry was happy to be inside from the cold, but he didn't feel cold. He felt quite warm, actually, from the kindness his friends had shown him.
Thank you, Kevin. You turned the gloomiest engine on the island into the happiest engine.
No problem. Happy holidays.
And, with Victor by his side, the little crane fell fast asleep.